Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite figures in all of history. Is a guy named Harry Houdini. Okay, I love him. Okay, he's most known as an escape artist, someone who would purposefully lock himself up in very strange ways or trap himself, and he'd have to escape from it. He used to go from city to city doing this. He would do things like bury himself alive. In fact, one of the times he buried himself alive, he almost died. You see, he dug a hole 6 feet deep, covered himself in earth, and tried to dig himself out. He panicked because of the weight of the earth and only got to where his hand came out of the dirt, where he lost consciousness, and his associates had to pull him out or he would have just died. And people clapped, hooray for almost dying. But it was enthralling that he put himself in these incredibly dangerous situations. He used to do things like handcuff himself, and then a rope would be tied around him, then he would be put in a box. The box would be nailed shut. He'd be taken out of the river by New York City and pushed off a boat, and he would have to escape from that. So underwater, locked up in a box that's nailed shut, and he'd have to figure out a way to do it, and he would do it, and that was the great thing. He'd go from city to city doing this. And even another thing he did was he was a pioneer aviator. So back when no one flew, he went to Australia, toured Australia doing his escape arts and things like that. But at the same time, he was flying from city to city. He was the very first person ever to fly a powered flight over Australia. Pretty exciting stuff. And this kind of popularity that he gained, this worldwide notoriety, allowed him to become a movie star. And later on in his career, took an interesting turn where he was a debunker of spiritualists. In other words, people who thought they could contact the dead and things like that. He made it his job to go out and prove all of these people were, well, lying. He's an interesting guy. He led a crazy life. He was born in Hungary, lived in America, but toured the world. And he finally died because another part of his show was that he always said anyone in the audience could come up, punch him in the gut as hard as they wanted, he'd be able to take it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what people did for fun back then, I guess. But anyway, one guy came up to him after a show while Houdini was posing for a sketch. So he was being sketched by an art student. That's another thing people did apparently back then. So he was just, posing, being cool. Guy came in, was like, heard I could punch it. You could take anyone's punch in the stomach. And Houdini was like, yeah, sure, I can do that, flippantly, kind of like, yeah, nothing happened. Dude came up, punched him 3 times rapidly in the stomach, and it was guessed that Houdini, who was already having a little bit of pain in his stomach, probably already was starting to have appendicitis, and when he was punched repeatedly in the stomach, the appendix ruptured, and he died shortly after that. So he died from being punched in the stomach. The books that I have for you today is one by Sid Fleischman called Escape, the Story of the Great Houdini, he's one of Sid Fleischman's a great writer, great biographer, and the book is filled with, it's a pretty quick read, and it's filled with photos from his life, things like that. Really, really cool, really, really good book, and you'll love it. If you just want to hear about like an interesting, weird, crazy guy, check it out. The other book that I have on Houdini is actually a graphic novel, Houdini, the Handcuffed King, which is not about like the whole of his life, but has bits and pieces and kind of tells the story of an escape. And you can see it's a nice graphic novel. Anyone who's interested in reading about one of the coolest people that's lived in the past 100 or so years, come check these out. All right, so it's The Escape, the Story of the Great Houdini by Sid Fleischman, and Houdini the Handcuffed King. Seriously, come bother me about them. Catch you later.